Alright, so my Byleth video got picked up by the algorithm. I don't know how. Regardless, I'm really grateful for the attention the video received. However, there was a lot of criticisms of my theory and the video as a whole. So to thank everyone, I will be going over all the comments made in response to the video. Yes, every single one. Some viewers misinterpreted my points, and I'd like to offer some better clarification. Some were just rude, but hey, it's the internet, that's expected. But the main reason I'm making this video is I got a lot wrong in the original, and I want to address all the issues made so that there's no confusion. Well, not to spoil the rest of the response, but my theory may just be a tiny bit totally wrong. Well, parts of it at least. I'm going to be going through every single comment made, which is a lot, but we can do this. Starting the quest through the comments section is all the comments agreeing with the video or otherwise positive remarks, and I just want to say, hey, thanks! This is my first time trying a scripted commentary video, and it's a little different from my usual output, so I'm happy for the support. On that topic, I'm working on my next Civ 6 song. The original plan was to post it after the Byleth theory, but I feel like this is more important to get out first. A lot of the comments were from my pre-Byleth viewers, and I want to thank you for all the support. New video coming soon. While we're talking about meta stuff, I would like to talk about the video as a whole, or more specifically its shortcomings. There was a lot of content I ended up cutting out of the video for time's sake and to cut down on my editing work. Unfortunately, there was a lot I wanted to elaborate on that got cut out. Secondly, I didn't expect the video to reach the audience it did, so to get it out quicker, I didn't do thorough enough research on some points. I'll talk about the specific ones later. Finally, there was many technical issues with the editing of the video. My software didn't like how many files I'd uploaded into it. And this was my first time doing a scripted commentary like this, and man, I was nervous recording it. Stumbled across my words a bunch and had to correct them in post-production, but it didn't always work. I tried to have a slowed down version of Byleth's Final Smash play, but the file got corrupted, so it's literally a PNG Final Smash now. The irony, I know. Lastly, I did spell incident wrong during the whole video. Don't know how that one slipped through. Another symptom of the shorter length is not having enough time to explain my levels of confidence I have in my theory. So here's a graph of everything I claimed in the video, and this is where I draw the line of certainty. You notice how high up the line is? I did mention how the later parts of the theory were pure speculation, but this is exactly what I'm claiming. Splitting it into 3 parts was a very deliberate choice, because that was basically how certain I am in each section. Part 1 consisted of me explaining why I felt Byleth was rushed and my evidence for it. The evidence came from Byleth's moveset and additional material, and his distinctness from the rest of the cast. This is the only part of the video I was saying with confidence, and I stand by what I said in this part. The other 2 parts were me trying to justify why I felt Byleth was rushed, and to give a reason for it. The second part was me giving my theory on the timeline of events and why Byleth needed to be rushed out. The third was me presenting one of my many possible options for the intended character. I chose one that made sense to me, but by far was not the only option. So there was a lot of accusations that this was a crackpot conspiracy theory. Yes, it was. That was the whole point. I'm not saying this is definitively what happened, it's a plausibility. The original title of the video was The Byleth Conspiracy. So I'm just clarifying, yes, and I know this is a crackpot theory, and that's why I made it.
I see. Too many swordsmen, are there? How is this?
So the most common comment I got was the infamous Smash phrase, "Hoes mad." A lot of people seem to have thought I was making the video because I hate Byleth, and I'm still mad about his addition. Well, yeah, I did kind of shoot myself in the foot on this one, given the title and the thumbnail of the video, so yeah, it's partially my fault. But everyone who said something along those lines really did not understand the point of the video. When did I ever say I hated Byleth? The only thing I said was their moveset seemed to rush and they don't fit in with the rest of Fighters Pass 1. Yeah, I'm sticking with those points. I don't hate Byleth. I'm a Fire Emblem fan. I played Three Houses. I loved Three Houses. I also made a Fire Emblem Sword Fighter in Smash. I mean, it'd be hypocritical of me to complain about overrepresentation in Smash. Another relevant thing I want to address is why I'm making this video now instead of when Byleth came out. To answer this, I didn't know how to make videos back in 2020. Yeah, I had this theory swimming around since then, and I've told friends that I wanted to make it, but I didn't have the ability. But after running the channel for about a year or so, I wanted to try something new and give scripted content a shot. So no, I'm not actually salty 4 years later, despite what the description says. I just thought it was funny. Yeah, Byleth is my least favorite Ultimate DLC. I would have preferred someone else, but there's 80 characters in the game. I'm not losing any sleep over it. Alright, so this one was interesting. I wanted to talk about the popularity of each Fighters Pass 1 character, so I used the sales figures from each series to make my point. I used this graphic to elaborate, but there was a bit of confusion, so let me clear some things up. The statistics used are from Wikipedia, and the most recent numbers they have listed, because companies release sales data at different times. So there might be a bit of a disparity between the actual numbers and the ones listed, but without any insider knowledge, we wouldn't know. This is also a bit lopsided because I included the game sales after the Smash character's appearance, so there might have been a post-release boost in popularity. I only included specific games each character appeared in. Joker has appeared in all the games under the Persona 5 moniker, for example, but no Persona 3 or 4 games, nor Shin Megami Tensei. Some people said it was unfair to include the entire Dragon Quest series, and to that I respond, can you read? The remake of Dragon Quest XI alone outsold more houses. And yeah, color me surprised, but SNK doesn't release sales figures for the console games or arcade machines. But Terry's been featured in over 80 games at that point, which is more than the total amount of Zelda games, so it's clear he's a very popular character. And a quick note on Banjo, a lot of people first played his game through Xbox Arcade, and that data isn't publicly available. Plus, video games just sold less back then, and it was still the 10th best-selling game on the Nintendo 64. Banjo's legacy carries them a lot in that department. However, sales figures don't mean everything, so let's take another look at popularity, this time using worldwide Google Trends. I took the data from the day before they were revealed for Smash Bros, so we can see how relevant each game was directly before they were announced for Smash. And we can see quite the opposite story from the sales figures, with Three Houses leading the pack with 1.2 million searches. Of course, that's because the game came out 6 months prior, so the results are a bit skewed. I wanted to look at fan Smash ballots to see how popular each fighter was, but again, Byleth was so new that he wouldn't have been included in any of these. So yeah, the sales figures and search popularity are two sides of the story, but neither encompasses the true popularity of the game, so make your own conclusions here. One thing I completely forgot to mention was how Smash isn't new to adding new Fire Emblem characters just for the sake of advertisement. Roy in Melee and Corrin in Smash 4. It's pretty well known trivia that Roy's first appearance was in Smash Bros. As his home game, Fire Emblem The Binding Blade, would only come out a few months later. Corrin was announced 6 months after his game's release in December of 2015, and came out 2 months later. However, this was only in Japan, as in North America and the PAL regions, the DLC would predate the game's release. So why do I think Byleth's circumstances were different? Well, believe it or not, Nintendo does keep an eye on its Smash fan base. They can tell which characters would make a big impression if added, and they saw the negative reactions that Corrin got at the end of Smash 4. Nintendo knew Byleth would be disappointing to Smash fans, hinted at by the "too many sword fighters" line from the trailer. Plus, Fire Emblem was in a precarious spot at the end of 2002 and 2015, but in 2019 the series had reached its all-time peak, being one of the few big Switch games that year. Three Houses didn't need any extra advertising, and its launch sales showed that off well. Corrin was released before Fire Emblem Fates, at least in the US, and Roy was released before The Binding Blade. That's the difference between Byleth and the other two advertisement picks. Don't you think it would have made more sense to release the character before the game comes out? And I have a question for everyone considering Byleth being an advertisement. Why wasn't Byleth released sooner? It wouldn't have made more sense to be revealed at the same time as Hero or Banjo? Byleth being in Smash solely to advertise 3 houses. Yeah, it makes sense. But if that's true, why wasn't he released sooner? Moveset also comes into play here. With how boring and bland Byleth is to play, it's not great at showcasing everything unique 3 houses has to offer. Bottom line is, if Byleth was supposed to be an advertisement, his moveset should have been more interesting and his release should have been earlier, which makes me think that wasn't the sole reason for his inclusion. So this one I got a lot of flack for, and honestly, rightfully so. After weeding out the Overwatch character to be in the game where the mystery character was from, I wanted D.Va to be the choice of the character for that game. And honestly, she seems like a fun moveset to have, a huge tank character like Bowser or DK, who could get rid of her armor for an attack and then becomes very light and nimble, which, now that I think about it, is exactly how Samus played in Brawl. But being honest, any Overwatch character could fit well into Smash. I also chose D.Va due to the Girl and Mech leak I mentioned, but in doing that I had to explain why the game's mascot, Tracer, wouldn't be chosen instead. And yeah, this was really the only thing I could come up with, and it is a dumb point, you guys are right. It's not like a small detail in the comics you gotta dig through is gonna make any difference, and it likely wouldn't even be mentioned in the game at all. So it wouldn't be a big deal even if the media hypes it up because, let's be real, Western news isn't going to make it to China or Russia. However, I would like to defend my point a little bit. Lots of people mentioned how Corrin and Byleth, 2 characters I'm sure you're very tired of hearing about, are LGBT themselves, being bisexual, which, hey, I didn't know that. So that would make Corrin the first LGBT character in Smash. At least in the West. See, the Fire Emblem series was never localized in Russia and was outright banned in China. While Overwatch is allowed in both of those territories and enjoys immense popularity within China. So in the countries I mentioned, Tracer still would have been the first gay character. Although, like I said, it's a moot point. There needed to be some more clarity on various parts of the theory. However, there were some straight-up factual errors. A good few factual errors, actually, some more damning than the others. I'll be going over each comment individually here, starting with this one. So, I was wrong about the Fighters Pass 2 announcement. I believed it was revealed in the same direct Byleth was on January 16th, but it was actually announced after Terry's reveal on November 6th. The discrepancy was that during the Terry Direct, it was only announced that there would be more DLC, not how many, which was revealed alongside Byleth. Don't know how I missed that, because that September Direct was the one with the Overwatch footage. The part of this one I want to focus on is the legally binding contract. I didn't even consider this, but yeah, it makes total sense that with the contract signed with Blizzard, Nintendo is legally bound to add the character no matter what happens. Even if there was some big controversy, it wouldn't be enough to break that contract between 2 of the biggest companies in gaming. Nobody mentioned this, but there's one thing I want to debunk from myself. Yeah, the Blitzchung controversy was pretty big and topical at the time, but it wasn't that big. And maybe I'm saying this retroactively because the 2021 controversy blows it out of the water, but the Blitzchung controversy isn't even mentioned in Blizzard's Wikipedia page, so whatever. But to me, this last one is the nail in the coffin. All the others could have been hand-waved, but I feel this comment cracks the conspiracy beyond repair. This comment by enigmatic Mr. L points out a very small detail from the Byleth presentation, and that's that it was filmed in November.
But this time, we have to account for the holidays and such, so we're filming 2 months in advance of this video's release. Right now, it's actually November.
This time, it's actually so over. That would mean there's only 1 month between the controversy and the showcase, and even though I was stretching the possibility of Byleth's time frame earlier, there's no justifying this. Even tying Byleth's time frame to Bayonetta's is inaccurate now. So, good job, my conspiracy has been officially disproved. Everything revolving around the incident happening in October, or heck, even the incident happening at all, has been scrapped. we're back at square one, with the only parts of the conspiracy intact is the fact that Byleth was rushed through development because some other character was unavailable. But that's actually a good thing. See, now the door is wide open for speculation, and we could all come together to discuss. So, now the possibilities are wide open. Who would the mystery character have been? Many commenters have given their input, some with theories, and some with just wishful thinking. I'm not going to dwell too long on the wish list characters, because that was never the point of the theory, but I do think it's interesting data to look at, so here are all the requests made before I edit this video. As you can see, most people wanted an alternate Fire Emblem character instead of Byleth, particularly ones using different types of weapons. Edelgard's leading the polls with the other two house leaders not far behind, and I can see why people would have preferred them, and Edelgard is also my favorite of these three. But if they were to add a Three Houses character, I still think Byleth would have been the best choice if he had a better moveset. Unlike the others, Byleth can actually use all the other weapons in the game, and unlike the other Fire Emblem characters in Smash already, his sword is cool. Like I said though, that's if Byleth had a better moveset, and, well, we didn't get that. Here's my proposal for that moveset though, if you want to pause and look at it. Now, there were some alternate theories for the mystery character. Crash Bandicoot was brought up because they are also owned by Activision, which was acquired by Blizzard. Crash was always one of the most heavily requested fighters for Ultimate, and his inclusion would have made a great finale to the Fighters Pass. The theory goes that Crash was subject to the same controversy Blizzard was, but in my opinion that's weaker than Overwatch being cut because Crash was never associated with Blizzard like Overwatch was. Plus that would mean Crash would be disproven due to the recording date revelation as well. The Monster Hunter from Monster Hunter, was also suggested to be the mystery character, but the theory is that the rights fell through. I don't buy it personally because they added Rathlos as a boss and an assist trophy. I think it's more just because they couldn't make a generic hunter work in the game. Plus, rights wouldn't be a problem if Monster Hunter content was already in the game. Galarian Slowpoke to advertise the Pokemon DLC. I think we found a character who would have been more hated than Byleth. There's a theory for Akira. No, not that Akira. There we go. There's a theory that Akira from Astral Chain would have been the mystery character, which has a bit more weight behind it. Essentially, Byleth and Akira would have played similarly, so they could have used some of the same assets for them, which makes sense to me. The reason for the swap would be how unpopular Astral Chain was at launch, but to me, if they added Min Min even when her game was dead, Astral Chain shouldn't have been an issue due to popularity. On that topic, Min Min's inclusion can be talked about. In an alternate theory I had, Byleth was originally going to be the first character of Fighters Pass 2, but they had to move him up for unknown reasons. Min Min would then fill the slot in Fighters Pass 2, where the mechanics of her arms would be programmed before the rest of the character, which is exactly why they announced that the fighter would be from arms before the actual character. I could see this being true, but I'm still in the camp Byleth wasn't supposed to be added in the first place, so we press on. On my Discord server, which you all should totally join, user Grapevine pointed some data mines out for Ultimate, which I had no idea about. Specifically, some remnants in Joker's code contained the codename Jane, and had some data that suggested the character had a ponytail. All Smash characters have codenames before the release, by the way. Some speculated it was an alternate costume for Joker based on Kasumi from Persona 5 Royal, but others speculated another character, Jill Valentine from Resident Evil. That means she shares a similar base to Joker, which is likely given they both fight with guns and knives. Unfortunately, that's all the data that was out there, but it's very plausible that Jill was planned. Resident Evil ended up having a Spirit event in Ultimate, and a new game released recently, and ports of old games coming to Switch. Furthermore, Jill was already in another fighting game, Marvel vs. Capcom 3. To me, it's baffling Capcom had no presence in Ultimate's DLC, despite having 3 characters on the main roster already. I suppose the reason for the cut is age rating reasons. Resident Evil is a very violent series, and Jill uses realistic firearms in it. It's very possible Jim was supposed to be in the game, and Nintendo had to use Byleth instead. Jill would end up in Fortnite later, so not all is lost, but it's still sad to think what could have been. But in my opinion, there's one character that Byleth likely replaced, and he was under our noses this whole time. It was Steve. Yeah, really, it's the only option that makes any sense. So much sense, in fact, I wasn't even the first to come up with it. Fans have been saying this ever since Steve was announced, and in hindsight, yeah, it's really obvious. Somehow I never even considered this as an option, but it kind of works out perfectly. Sakurai said Steve took the longest to develop out of all the fighters, having to rework every single stage in the game to accommodate for his block placing. And we also know it took a while to negotiate for the rights to the character on top of that. So Steve took longer to develop than expected and wouldn't have been done in time for the end of Fighter's Pass. So they brought in Byleth to fill the slot. This also gives a reason for Fighter Pass 2 having 6 characters instead of 5. Byleth was like a bonus character. Byleth was always the backup pick for the DLC. If one of the characters was unavailable, Byleth would be added instead. So Sakurai played a bit of Three Houses before the DLC was announced, created an easy-to-implement moveset, and kept it in the back in case it was ever needed, and with Steve going out overtime, they did need it. So, in the end, it's kind of fitting. The one we were searching for the whole time was here from the start. I never hated Byleth, but I thought they could have brought in someone better for that slot. Like I said, 80 characters, I'm not losing any sleep over a few bad ones. But knowing Byleth existed so that Steve, my favorite DLC, could be as unique and fun as he is, in my eyes, that makes it all justified. I'm sorry, Byleth, and I'm sorry, Byleth fans. Alright, let's look at a few other comments to wrap things up. 100%, I don't even like Overwatch. Giving me a bit of tonal whiplash here. Yeah, true. And yeah, that's all I have to say about Byleth and Smash. If you made it this far, I don't know, subscribe or something. I don't know what's next in terms of scripted content. I have a few ideas swimming around. But once again, thanks all for the amazing responses to the original Byleth video. It really means a lot to me. I'll catch you guys on the flip side.